Dear students, so today we are going to see what is a new criticism, historicism. So, new historicism, uh, this lecture will focus on the three aspects. Okay, these are the aspects. So, what is a new historicism and the basic proportions of new historicism and the new and old historicism have some differences. What are the differences between this old and new historicism? Then what the new historicist will do, what they focus, what is their major work. So this whole lecture is focusing on these four aspects. So what is new historicism, then what is the preparations of this new historicism, that is what the main ideas, okay, what they will do work for, that is will focus this lecture. Then we will move into the first. The term New Historicism was coined by American critic Stephen Greenblatt. Where he was invented this term was in his book, okay, The Renaissance Self-Fashioning from Moore to uh, Shakespeare in the year 1980. We will consider this remark will be usually a beginning of a new historicism. Okay, the beginning of new historicism begin from this work. Okay, he coined this term. And also similarly we have a different identifications also from the various publications also, but this will be considered as a beginning of this term new historicism. Then we will see the definition. The definition of new historicism offered by an American critic, Louis Montrose. He defined it is as combined interest in. That means it is as this. It means the new historicism is a combined interest in the textuality of history and historicity of text. So here itself, the whole argument of this new historicism, I'm going to give some kind of introduction alone. So this whole introduction will focus this definition, that is the textuality of a history and the historicity of the text. So it combined both. So it cannot take the text alone, the literature alone. It should have the history that we will learn further. Okay, then the new historicism is a literary theory, that's a base. Okay, you know that. So it's a literary theory based on an idea. Okay, idea that literature should be studied and interpreted with the context of both the history of the author and the history of the critic. So please understand the whole meaning lies here. The interpretation or the study, okay, can be both. Okay, context of a both what the history of the author, where did when did this work has been written, when did this work has been published, and the critic. It does in need that the critic also should be in the same period. Even we take T.S. Eliot's in a critical appreciations. At present, we will do that work. So it can be. So they are saying we should combine, we should study together. Okay, this history of the author and history of the critic. Then the based on the literary criticism of this Greenwald, one who coined this term, he was influenced by the philosophers, the Mitchell Foucault. Here, the new historicism is acknowledges, okay, not only that work of a literature is influenced by author's time and circumstances, but that the critic's response to the work is also influenced by his environment, a belief, and prejudices. Okay, here, so what will happen? So what they are looking at, so his work, for example, if you are writing a work, so that work will be influenced by your circumstances, where you are living, or what kind of exposure you have. So that affects And also this critic response to the work also influenced by that critic's environment and beliefs and all other thoughts, the prejudgments, okay, whatever he has earlier kind of a stereotypes. So all those things will also affect. This was an idea is proposed by this new historicist. Then a new historicist look at the literature in a wider historical context. So this is important. So they don't look at, okay, a text as an aesthetic or text as an individual. So all the time I have been new criticism somewhere instead of historicism. I'm using that because there is another theory which is a new criticism that will talk about the text alone. The text alone has every meaning we can find out. So you don't need to look at the other areas. You don't need to worry about the who has written this work, where he was from, which ideology he was linked with. So they don't worry about. They look at text as text. But this new historicist will look at the text, okay, literature, in a historical context. So they believe that without the history, the circumstances which influence the writer, they cannot be, we cannot separate those things. That's what the both how the writer's time affected the work and how the work related to the writer's time, in turn recognizing the current cultural context, the color that critics conclusion. So very simple. So this the uh, in order to that work will be affected, the writer's time, that the work has been influenced by the certain time what the history, okay, happened in the particular time. Then for example we can they have given in the Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. So it's a work, okay. It's always come to the question of, okay, whether the player shows the Shakespeare to be in anti-Semitic, okay, Semitic. And also this new historicist will recognize that this isn't a simple question whether this is what you mean by semiotic is an uh, against, okay, unlikeness towards the Jewish people. So how we will understand, how we will trace, just not only studying the, just out by the studying of text, but also, okay, but also we should know the history of the, this book is about against which is new historicism. Frequently it defines all the time, and these books were described in a set of conservative mental attitudes, okay, which was the influence, okay, of to the society. This was a traditional approach to the Shakespeare was characterized by a combination of historical framework and the practice of close reading. So it is combination together. They are not taking a Shakespeare alone. They are taking a historical framework also. They include, and also they are looking the text as a close reading, which we the advocated by new criticist. Okay, then this work must be judged in the context of written in the cultural history can be revealed by studying the work. See, understand? So it can be vice versa. By looking at the text itself, we can trace the history, the culture of, especially saying the new Christologist, by studying use of diffusion. Okay, studying the diffusion. Um, of the power and the marginalization of social class within the work, you can easily understand what happened. The diffusion is in a state of being spread out. It includes, we can study through the work, okay, from the we can understand the cultural history. That's what they are saying. Studying the history reveals more about the text, and the studying the text reveals more about the history. So both, okay, both are we can find out the thing. So text and history is not separated. It's a single dimension. So you should study combinedly. That was an argument. Then we will look at the new historicism also acknowledges, okay, the this thing, okay, this examination of literature is trained, okay, in his own culture and environment. And this very fact whether the Shakespeare was an anti-Semite, the question wouldn't be considered important a century ago. So it reveals, okay, how study has been uh, conducted on Shakespeare at present that affected the civilization. They don't even think of this kind of questions. Okay, whether this was an should be addressed this kind of issues, or whether we should look at this issues in this perspective. Okay, so that kind of issue cannot be happened. Okay, so what is that, it affect the a few state conditions, like, okay, that maybe affect the earlier scholarship. So scholarship is an kind of an knowledge, okay, knowledge uh, that impact, okay, important to the knowledge of the particular work or personalities. So which the quantity of knowledge which they have. Then, the new historicism highlights a temporariness of literary criticism. Of course, okay, even when they deconstructionists say, if you define something deconstructionism, then it is not a definition. So all the time it accepts the changes. So likewise, the temporariness, because sometimes for a certain period of time we'll think this work will be the best or in the historical context. When we analyze, okay, we left out the scholarship, then we look at the text as new, then the things has been changing. The current literary criticism is affected by and reveals the belief of our times is the same way that literature reflected is reflected by his own historical context. So maybe may not be the Shakespeare, if he would have lived in this particular time, he could not have written those works, because the influence of history has not happened. There were other things also. So that's what they were. Then new historicism acknowledges the embrace the idea that as times change will understand the great literature. The understanding of literature should be happened through this analysis, this criticism, that is new criticism. That's what they focus. Then the major proportion, okay, of new historicism is an it is a matter of interpretation of historical writing should be analyzed as literary text. So history should be analyzed or interpreted or discussed in the analysis of the literary text. Then history is neither progressive nor linear. So it is, and it is not, we cannot throw it away. It is a kind of a progression which is keep on, it won't change. We can understand whatever happened is happened, we cannot change it, or it is growing in a same line. Okay, it always have a changes. We cannot say even both. Okay? Whether it is getting change or it is the same law, we cannot say it. Okay, it's a neither progressive nor a linear. Then the past is something we construct. So that's what happening. Okay, this is a major idea of um, this new historicism, because through understanding revealing the history may be rewritten. That's what then historicist interprets history all the time, this new historicist. Then history and literature are experienced together. So that's what left out here. So it should be understand that together, experienced together, the major. Then I will get into the next idea, that is a new historicism involves a parallel study of literary and non-literary text. So the word parallel encapsulates the essential difference between this and the earlier approach of literature, which had made some of the historical data. You can easily understand this historicism itself is to history. So that has a history means it's a combination of more data. So that's what you can also hear. It's parallel study. It's not about showing the hierarchy like earlier. Okay, the history can be considered to be the greatest, or even I can give you some example like science and arts. So it is superior. Which one is superior to other? So that kind of the hierarchy won't happen here. It's a parallel, giving equally importance. literary text also literature also important, and the history also important. It is studied together. That's what the major thing. It has an common notion. Then the first, okay, that's what difference which they, the major difference of the giving a equal weighting to the literary and non-literary text for the first and major difference between the new and historicism. For example, the EMW, the Till Arts, the Elizabethan World Picture in the year 1943, and the Shakespeare's history of the plays. Then the next important difference is encapsulated, that is related to the word of archival, okay, in the phrase of the archival continuum. So new historicism, that is indeed it focused, okay, indeed focused on the historicist rather than a historical movement. So what it is focused on a historicist, not the a movement, history movement. That is, new historicism is interested in a history as represented and recorded in a written documents in the history as text. That's why they didn't avoid the literary text. They need it should be analyzed. They expect, okay, they wanted the text should be exposed to us with the help of the history. So both should be studied together. Okay, so that's what they are saying. It's not they are not focusing on historical movements, but they are focusing on the history in the text. Then, so it could be the final part of this introduction. So what this new criticist will do, okay, they juxtapose the literary and non-literary text, reading the former in the light of the later. So juxtapose means it's a comparing. They compare the literary and non-literary. Literary is a fiction, non-literary is a non-fiction, like writing what is actually happened. Okay, the reality is non-literary text, that is history. So we should combine together and to understand. They'll compare both things, okay, literary and non-literary, and they try thereby to defamiliarize. That is very important. That defamiliarize the canonical literary text. So for example, defamiliarize means getting back to deframe. Okay, the canonical means the great works which we consider, okay, the all the William Wordsworth's, okay, poetry, we consider that's a greater heights. Okay, that's comparing with all the combining with all the things, then we consider something great. That's a canonical, something important, very great works. But what these people, new historians will saying, they are degrading or they are looking the text as it is, as if new. For example, it has some greater scholarship. Okay, when we see read about this T.S. Eliot's Wasteland, all those things, it has greater scholarship. But what these people, they don't look as it is already what is the existing the scholarship, but they take as a new one. They compare with the here. Okay, they analyze as a new one. So that's why they defamiliarize and detaching it from accumulated weight of previous literary scholarship. Whatever the work has gained the scholar, it's a great work, okay, which we used to say for the earlier works published, but they don't see like that. They see as it new, that is published is a new one. Like they will look at the text, the defamiliarize, they just suppose this a compare. So they also defamiliarize the canonical works. Then they focus attention on the issue of power and how is maintained and the patriarchal structures. So that's what why history wants to study, to understand the issues of the state of power and all. Then they make use of the two persons ideas. That's what earlier we seen. He was influenced by the this Mitchell Fokker and the Derrida's reality in the textuality. Okay, they also focus this Derrida's ideas. That's why a deconstruction also has it don't has an a stable a definition. Okay, they don't stick with something stable. They always look for something new or change. But this here also, whatever is existed in the history, they'll also reread and they'll defamiliarize the ideas. So this is an basic introduction towards new historicism. So in this lecture we focus what is historicism. Okay, that is new historicism and definition, who has coined this term. Then we have seen the basic preparations of a new historicism. Then We seen a few differences between new and old historicism. Then finally, what these historicists will do. So with this, we came to an end of this lecture. Thank you. Have a great learning.